Hello and welcome back. I'm George Eliason. Now, if you watch Tucker Carlson's analysis on Joe Biden's anti-fascist speech, well, it might make you feel really, really hopeful that the Democrats are so incompetent they can't pull off what they're trying to. I think Tucker's misguided on this point, and this is a brilliant guy. And quite frankly, at this point, understanding what's going on, coming from first a normal, dysfunctional political America that he covered for so long, into the anti-Trump, never Trump, and persecution of Republicans and conservatives, it's actually a new thing. Here's the thing. The Democrats are not incompetent. The Democrats are not just reaching out in every direction they can. This is a very, very well-planned, well-oiled operation on their part. And quite frankly, it's the first of its kind, so, it's not his fault he's missing this. I've been covering this since 2015, and from that point on, I described all the steps that would be taken. And they have been. I described the methodologies they'd be using, and they are. The media operation was designed by an SCL partner, IOTA Global, for SCL's war division. It's actually geared toward regime change, and that's what's going on. Well, you say, George, why would Biden want to overthrow his own regime? Oh, he's not. He's overthrowing democracy, and they'll stay in place. They learned this from the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians did this first in the Orange Revolution. The players that they were protesting against were themselves. Maidan in 2014 showed the same thing. The exact government that threw the country in turmoil, barring Yanukovych, stayed in power. And they'll keep having revolutions and stay in power. And this is the lesson that Biden learned. So what are they doing? By causing all this turmoil in the United States, now I'm talking about economic factors, social factors, I'm talking about trust in government factors, everything combined creates and foments revolution. You see, they're not trying to heal the country, they're not trying to help the country, they're not trying to build people's lives by either job production, economic growth, which would provide that, or social normalcy. The justice system isn't in shambles. This is planned. This is all planned. So what's the next step? Biden is marshaling the forces. They're actually using all these factors to gather the forces needed to destroy both the Republican Party, MAGA, Donald Trump, and make sure that none of these ideas, the concepts of a free economy, liberal democracy, conservatism, ever raise their ugly heads again in the new America that's going to arise from the ashes of their revolution. This has been planned all along. So why is Biden harping on fascism? Why? Why tag the conservatives? The conservatives are the only political spectrum that has ever stood against fascism anywhere. This is a fact. It's always been the enemy of every type of socialism. And guess what, baby? Fascism is a socialism. Now, you don't have to take my word for that, because you've been told since the Cold War that they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. But this is not true. The CIA developed that notion, and the socialists pushed it along because they wanted to fight the Bolsheviks side of it. You see, this socialism hates Marxism and Leninism, even though it borrows from it heavily. Fascism is not free market. Now, the author of Fascism itself, the guy that wrote the manifesto, the rules, the book, the playbook, and how to go about things and take over the world was a guy named Giovanni Gentili. He's a neo-Hegelian philosopher, and he is the intellectual author of Fascism along with Mussolini. They wrote it. Now, when Gentili wrote this, he declared that fascism is a form of socialism, and in fact, it is its most viable form. The difference between the socialism that is all over media and fascism is, well, you get to own land. Some people get rights, and it generally goes to a better class, the business and political people that supported fascism to begin with. Socialists will eat this up. They did this in the 1930s in Italy. They did this in the 1930s and 40s in Germany. Those were socialisms. In every country that supported Adolf Hitler in his effort, they were all socialists. If you look at Imperial Japan at the time, they'd just gone through their own revolution, and guess what? They'd become socialists based on the German and Austrian models. This is what's going on. So why does he need to marshal all these people? Because, well, he's already got them, right? No, he needs them angry enough to go on the street. He needs them willing to put their bodies on the line and physically attack Republicans, conservatives, and especially MAGA. He needs law enforcement at the federal level and hoping for the state levels to be able to throw away the laws and persecute everybody they decide at all the different levels needs to be persecuted, prosecuted, jailed, and forgotten. This is where Biden's going with this. As he paints Donald Trump and MAGA and conservatives with this very, very dangerous epithet, it's to infuriate his troops. It's to make them so angry because, one, nobody really understands what fascism is. It's a leftist thing. And they can't understand why all these Lenin-marked socialists would eat it up. Because they see the socialist aspect of it, and that's all. There are 3 points to fascism, and they all agree with socialism in any form. Everything is in the state. The state owns everything. So what the state decides is what is. What's good with the state is good for you. Now, in terms of property ownership, right now we're going through an unprecedented slide. We're at a point in history where more Americans are renting than owning. They can't afford it anymore. They can't afford to keep their houses. The houses are going to the banks are auctioning them off, and Biden supporters are buying it up, pennies on the dollar. This is fascism, rewards. At that end of it, fascism is socialism for the very wealthy and for the party supporters. If you're not a party supporter, well, you're outside the state. And the next point is nothing outside the state. Nothing is outside the state purview, which means you have no right to free thought. You have no right to make things better. You have no right to innovate. You have no right to anything unless they give it to you. See, it doesn't matter who's in charge in a fascist state. What they say counts. That's all it is. You've got these rhino Republicans that are really good with this because they're all in it for the power. They cannot accomplish anything real in their lives. They cannot accomplish anything. They cannot build anything. They cannot invent anything. They cannot design anything. And these are the people that want to put the bit in your mouth and keep you from doing that either. only approved work. And how about nothing against the state? Conservative thought, MAGA, Republican Party concerns are outside the state, meaning they are maybe not illegal, but they are the enemy of the state. These people, these thoughts, these actions. Innovation is outside the state and therefore won't be tolerated. Innovative thought, a better way of doing things? No, not anymore. This is why this cannot stand. I've been detailing this since 2015. What Tucker Carlson missed is the fact that this plan is for the next step in the revolution, which is extreme violence. Think Maidan on the streets, think of people getting beat to death, think of the worst possible scenarios you can. They brought in ISIS, for God's sakes. A lot of the refugees that came in around the ban of Donald Trump were ISIS. They brought in the Ukrainian nationalists that are cutting people's heads off in Ukraine. The FBI put a stop to it in 2020 when they realized this practice was going on, and Joe Biden just upped the ante by doubling and tripling it. We won't refuse these people. Guess who's coming in? It isn't the victims in the Ukrainian war. These are the purveyors of violence, political violence. Americans really need to brace themselves to the realities of these situations. Well, after something so dark, where's the hope? When Republicans regain the House and the Senate in 2022, the midterms are coming up. The first order of business needs to be rolling back the Smith-Mundt Act to pre-2012. Period, the end. And guess what? Media war stops. This puts these people at a standstill. It throws a wrench in the works because they will no longer be able to legally do and say what they are in media anymore. And without that tool, the information war falls apart very, very quickly because the people doing these things, even though they are doing them illegally now under anti-terrorist laws, and yes, you can sue them for this if you wake up and do it, will be guilty under federal and state laws because of what they're doing with both propaganda and information war on the American people themselves. All of this, all of the Russia thing was meant to lead to this. Now, in real terms, as much as you're going to hate to hear this, the first victim of this is the only other conservative country on the planet. Russia's politics are conservative. They're different from ours. Of course, they're Russian. Do you need to feel for them, like them? No, but you need to respect that fact. And other countries do exist. But Obama, Clinton, Biden, Kerry, they got you people roped in supporting a fascist socialist country that's destroying itself and its people. Now, I just heard word, I haven't looked at the proof yet, but it makes sense. From the beginning of the war till now, Volodymyr Zelensky has upped his fortunes to about $8.5 billion offshore. And given Ukraine's history, his history, yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm George Eliason. Thank you.